Hello and thank you all for watching. This is Manny Sunny Sun for a overview of from January 11th of 2015, and we'll stretch this period back and forth because we'll be speaking about the Uranus Pluto square, which the conjunction began in 2009, and the last time that happened also before 2009 was during the American Revolution, 1776. So there's a war happening on, and we'll speak about that. The Great War of the Gods is winding down midway through March in Uranus. It will make one of this final Uranus-Pluto square, one of the final seven squares, in March of 17th, 2015. The two old gods have been squaring off each other since through 2008, 2009, symbolizing a battle between freedom, control. For those of you who know a little bit about astrology and who may care even to study or even less have the patience of it, and I will try to explain the importance of what we've been living through for the past couple of years. So in January of 2009, there was a the there was an article done on these transits. This is an extract from this particular article. We are at the start of one of the greater periods in the reformation of human history. The world is changing, and it will change quite fast, and it will change dramatically and be far more widespread than any other time in history. It is for no other reason than by sheer numbers involved in terms of both nations and populations. To get a grasp on who, how, when, where, and why, we should perhaps return briefly to the old Greek myths. The story of the god Olympus is above all else a creation, a tale. In the beginning, all was in turmoil and toxicity. There was Uranus, the sky god, and there was Gaia, the Mother Earth goddess. Uranus lay down with Gaia, and in relationship considered incestuous, produced 12 offsprings known as Titans. Unsatisfied with his creation, Uranus kept the Titans locked in Gaia's womb, which produced great strain and pain for Mother Earth. According to Hesiod in this book, in Theogony, the youngest was Kronos, Saturn, Father Time, and he was most wily, most ambitious, most terrible towards his children. Yet it was at Saturn that Gaia turned for help. He used a sickle to castrate his father and seize power, replacing one weird dictator with another, and he did not, at first, it led to any improvement in the condition of the world. Saturn produced his own series of offsprings with his Titan sister Rhea, but fearing one of them would turn against him as he had against Uranus, he swallowed them whole. The only exception was Zeus Jupiter, whom Gaia protected by giving Saturn a wrapped-in baby's swaddling. When Jupiter matured, he concocted a potion with Gaia's help, forcing Saturn to vomit up the rest of the children, who then divided into groups to wage war for control and the rest of the world. Neptune and Pluto here, therefore, plays various other players joined up on Jupiter's side. To wrest control from Saturn, most of the losers were condemned to the underworld, Tartarus, and Pluto was given domain over the underworld to keep those evil forces from breaking free. And so we can see from these old myths that these forces and power symbolized by Uranus, Saturn, and Jupiter, Neptune and Pluto leads to great clashes within change, the very nature of the world around us. We can also tell from the inner relationship that Saturn does not have a happy relationship with other four gods. So it is at these old tales we must turn to our guidance on reading these symbolisms of developing an astrological aspects between these planets. Pluto, of course, has this enormously destructive, intense power of evil, imprisonment in Tartarus at his beck and call, but ultimately falls under Jupiter's will, so the effects of the use of the power must eventually morph into something benefic and productive. It is why we associate Pluto with complete destruction followed by rebirth. The evil power is unleashed to tear down anything and everything which stands in the way of total makeover. It is a tale of the phoenix which must be burned into ashes before it can be reborn. So the other component of the Greek myths we need to take into account when trying to get the sense of why our world seems to be turning upside down, the nature of these signs. And the most active astrological sign is the cardinal ones: Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. Cardinal signs initiate, they produce action, change, and they're stirred by action, of course. The effects can be very wide ranging and far reaching, especially in terms of the symbolism of the signs involved. Pluto's previous transit of the cardinal sign started in the early 1970s in Libra. It changed the world irrevocably, especially in terms of those close to one relationships. Marriage, the institution, would never again have quite the same compulsion as it did in earlier centuries. Living in sin underwent a social reformation and partnership, quote unquote. It started to replace more of a formal marriage without much of the social disapproval that had been previously applied. Given that Libra is a feminine sign under the rulership of Venus, interested with equality, fair play, the Pluto transiting over to this sign here gives rise to a reborn or transformation within women, the for women to reclaim their own position in power and in society. So Pluto symbolism is very clear and very closely related to the power. And Libra, of course, is a sign that relates to the society. Um, so when it comes to Pluto's current transit over the cardinal sign of Capricorn, we know that the grave shifts changed imbalance of power going to emerge as a central theme. So we now have at the time honored institutions that are Capricornian in nature and will be torn down and remade in a form that makes them most unrecognizable from what was there hence. And given that it's Capricorn, we're talking about something really big, like institutions, governments, nations, national borders and restrictions, corporations, the power elite, even the police. All of these fall under the Capricornian control. Well, here are now the start of the 2015. 6 years later, the world has changed quite dramatically. Writing over the few years, I have characterized Uranus square Pluto as armed rebellion, aggressiveness, radical demands for freedom, Uranus Aries, versus determined attempt by the power to maintain power and control, to preserve the status quo at all costs, Pluto Capricorn. Turn on the television. Turn on the television. What do we see? News everywhere, from the streets of New York, Hong Kong, Paris, Bangladesh. The police have increasingly militarized to counter the threats, regardless of whether those threats are armed or violent or relatively peaceful. Governments are spying on their citizens to a degree which would have had the stasis drooling with delight. Unelected officials at central banks around the world are running and printing presses on non-stop, flooding the world with new money to protect these new banks. And even as there is no interest, policies send savers to the poorhouses. Debt has ballooned in countries like Japan and the United States. It is unlikely it can ever be paid back, at least not in what we might regard as the normal way, quote unquote. It is Pluto and Capricorn at work. The power elites will stop at nothing to protect their privileged positions. It is not, of course, the first time that it has happened. Is a long and outer orbit, and it moves slow in terms of its orbit around the sun. So Pluto's journeys around in Capricorn began in January 1762, and it finished around late 1778. It takes about 12 years. Uranus was in Aries back then, as it is in the present moment. We had armed rebellions, we had pirates seizing controls of governments, assets, and making travel unsafe. We had the superpowers of the time, England, Spain, France, and Holland, constantly battling each other while simultaneously trying to suppress demands for more freedom from within their own populations. We had new nations being formed, borders being shifted, and the start of new fundamental shift in power axes of the world, which I guess is my point. We have gone through in many years the start of a process which marks the emergence of a new era in human history. So while Uranus will make its final square in Uranus Pluto by mid-March, March 17th, it is not the end, simply the end of a new beginning, and quite possibly the start of a period when we might find just how well these attempts of power elites try to keep control, the will to stand up. So we are heading in a year with few major astrological transits, and most of them involve the head honcho or the old god's Jupiter. I have mentioned Jupiter and Sagittarius are the symbols of expansion, enthusiasm, exaggeration, excess, and growth. In good times, the good times really rock, but sometimes what gets exaggerated is fear and growth can collapse like a house of cards. So that's the big picture overview of what's happening with this spooky, dark stuff before we leave and entirely turn up our attention to the technical conditions of the markets. Let's first take a look at the timing of 2015 transits. As we can see from above this time map, there are about only 6 major astrological aspects happening in 2015, excuse me, and 4 of them involve Jupiter, shaped like a 4 in a glyph, a crescent, and a glyph of 4. The 2 of the most significant periods suggested by the time map by mid-March to late March, when the last of the Uranus-Pluto square will be joined by the eclipses, and in mid-September when Jupiter opposes Neptune, also coincides with eclipse triggers. On the following page there is a second time map which includes all the aspects made by Mars to the outer planets in the coming year. Mars is the astrological symbol for drive, action, energy, and also at various times I have shown that the planetary price charts showing how various indices, especially Wall Street and SP 500, tend to travel within Martian channels. I have marked with red rectangles the time periods are likely to be significant in terms of stock market movements over the next 12 months. And I've shown this particular graph, the Bradley model. It is interesting that the Bradley model forecast for 2015 predicts major trend changes, dates which don't coincide with major transit dates. Last year's Bradley model dates are marked in black. This year is in blue. There were only 3 major turn dates last year, and each coincided with temporary peaks in the SP 500. I caution every year that it is the dates that Bradley models which are important, not the direction or the amplitude of the trend change as indicated by the red line. In the years it works, the Bradley model can be uncannily accurate. I'm not sure last year was one of those. The model did pick turn dates very accurately, but they were hardly major trend changes. Nevertheless, it could prove to be very useful to keep a close eye on the behavior of stock markets at these dates are approaching to see whether they are tradable, swing low or high is forming. Where are we now? Question. Expect in the very broad times. I'm not a huge fan of Elliott wave theory. People tie themselves in knots trying to label Elliott wave theory. However, as a general principle, the theory does tend to work. Stock prices rally in 5 waves, where 1, 3, and 5 are rallies, and waves 2 and 4 are corrections. What complicates matters is that each of the rally legs can subdivide in their own 5-wave structures. According to the optimistic Elliott theorist, American stock markets are nearing at an end of a wave 3, which in reality is only part of wave 1, a new supercycle bull market destined to run for decades. In the above words, the Elliott optimists think we are about where I've inserted the red arrow on the chart above. If they are correct, Wall Street will have made a significant new highs in the next few months, followed by a major months-long correction, and then another rally, likely to add hundreds of points in the SP 500. The price targets for the SP 500. You are all by now totally familiar with the concept of my long-range planetary price charts for various indices. The chart below, generated using the Galactic Trade 4 software, shows very clearly the price targets where you need to consider lining up or loading up. Depending on the state of the idiot and the big bird oscillator, are the time prices are hit. And it is exceedingly obvious that they do get hit time and time again. Yes, there are often overshoots and undershoots. That really isn't the point. The point is you are being given a very clear target that can make you a lot of money. If you shut out the damn noise as the market approaches, these points look carefully for pending change in trend directions. Now let's look for a couple of long-range technical charts for the SP 500, starting with a pitchfork with the recommended fast MACD oscillator. Finally, the MACD signal line is rolling over the negative, and with the negative divergence obvious in the continuing lower peaks in the green histogram. However, the MACD signal line itself has gone a lot higher than it did at the two previous bull peaks, suggesting that the Elliott optimist may well be right, that we are only nearing the end of wave 3. But there are also clearing warning signs, not just those from the MACD. Price has breached the upper blue tine of the pitchfork and doesn't appear to be too happy about doing so. As we start the year, price is maintaining its positions within the upper tier of the BB levels. It is similar position using the idiot methodology, which is our next chart. The monthly forecast. The monthly idiot for the SP 500 remains in buy mode, where it has been since 2001. There are three canaries in the oscillator panel: the green fast bird, the red medium bird, and the blue big bird. All three are rolling over and recording lower peaks. The fast bird and medium bird have declined below the 100 plus line, the upper unbroken red line, giving a clear warning that the rally, or at least this point, this post 2011 leg of the rally, is weaker below the surface than many commentators believe. However, the big bird, the most important of the three, long-range trading and investing, is still well above the bull market signal of the 100 plus line. And that's it for this edition. In short, even the optimists think we are at most only a few months away from a significant correction, which will be followed when it is finished by another strong bull run. You have the planetary price targets to watch, and the Bradley and spooky stuff timing triggers to monitor. Good luck, and I wish you all a happy and healthy, prosperous 2015 and safe tradings. Thank you all for watching.